Hey, Dean. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May 27th edition of the Plaistow Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting. Dee, would you call the roll, please?
Peter Below.
I'm here.
Dan Lloyd.
I'm here.
Jonathan Gifford has asked to be excused. John Blinn.
I'm here.
Gary Ingham.
Here.
Jim Unger.
Here.
Okay, and we're appointing Jim as a voting member for this evening.
Fine with me.
What?
Fine with me.
Thank you much. Let's stand to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I see the flag remained from COVID. That's good. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I gotta say, doing it live, we're all in sync a lot better than we do it remotely on a Zoom meeting. And I do want to say to the ZBA team and Dee, I think this group did an outstanding job throughout this whole COVID thing, meeting remotely. We had some technological glitches along the way, but, you know, everybody persevered and we made it through okay, and I'm glad to see everybody in person. And I'm hoping at the next meeting, we won't have to wear a mask. You can if you wish, but whatever. You guys delayed 3 weeks, right, John?
Yep.
Okay,
That's what we're shooting for.
excellent. Let's take a quick look at the minutes for the April 29th meeting. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
I'll second. Has everybody read them? Okay,
Peter Below.
yes.
Dan Lloyd.
Yes.
John Blinn.
Yes.
Gary Ingham.
Yes.
Jim Unger.
Yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0.
Okay, so let's call that first case D.
Continued from April 29, 2021, case number 21-04, a request from DC Development and Construction LLC for a variance from Article 6, Section 22048G3 to permit reduced setbacks from foundation to foundation from the minimum of 50 to no closer than 30. The property is referred to as Sweet Hill Road Rear, Tax Map 41, Lot 83 in the MDR zoning district, and is accessed by an extension of Stephen C. Savage Way. The property owner of record is John Alden Palmer Jr., Revocable Trust of 2006, Janice Palmer, successor trustee. I have received a letter from the engineer in this matter. Dear members of the board, please accept this letter as a formal request to withdraw without prejudice the above referenced application. Thank you for consideration. I know they're still working things out with the Conservation Commission and may have to tweak the plan once they're done with that.
Okay, fine, thank you. Let's go on to the next one.
Okay. Case number 21-07. I'm going to read the next two together if that's okay with you, sir.
Perfect.
Okay. 21-07, a request from John W. Doherty for a variance from Article 5, Section 223D, 3DC3 to
Say
permit.
that 3 times quickly.
I couldn't even say it one time slowly.
Okay.
To permit lot coverage of 35.6%, which exceeds the 30% permitted in the Village Center District. The property is located at 97 Main Street, Tax Map 39, Lot 77, in the Village Center Zoning District. The property owner of record is Doherty Family Revocable Trust, John W. and Deirdre Doherty, trustees. Case number 21-08, request from John W. Doherty for a variance from Article 3, Section 220-9.1 to permit an extension of the existing driveway to be 3.3 feet from the sideline at its closest point, which is less than the minimum requirement of 15 feet. The property is located at 97 Main Street, Tax Map 39, Lot 77, in the Village Center Zoning District. The property owner of record is Doherty Family Revocable Trust, John W. and Deirdre Doherty, trustees.
Okay. Welcome back. Come on down. Please. D will move.
I don't want to be on TVD.
It's too late. We knew you could.
So excited. You can sit wherever you want to. That's why I'm out.
Good evening.
Good evening. So you're hanging back there?
Mr. Doherty, we're going to ask you to state your name and address for the record, please.
John W. Doherty, 97 Main Street, Plaistow, New Hampshire.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we're looking at two variance requests. Let's kind of talk about them individually, okay?
Yes.
And when we go into deliberation, we'll do that for both, one after the other, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so what is the first one here? No, this is, okay, the property coverage, right?
Yep.
So,
You have a full-size copy of the map in your packet?
okay, and a pictometry,
I'm sorry?
and pictometry.
Yes.
So let's go through, just, brief description of, what the issue is. There may be new people watching out there.
Right,
You know.
the issue is my lot is small, and apparently there's a limitation on lot coverage, which I wasn't aware of. So what I'm proposing to do is build a new garage and remove 3 buildings that are now currently on the property, 2 sheds, 2 10 by 12 sheds, and a 10 by 20 garage, which is presently there, and build a 24 by 28 foot garage towards the back of the property. I also have like a large patio behind, a concrete patio behind my house, which I think all the docking, all the docking stuff is what I'm proposing to remove to try to meet the town requirements of lot coverage. So I'm removing that patio, you see the sidewalk, the 2 sheds well, what says it is an existing shed is actually a 1-car garage. And then you see existing campus garage. I don't think that's been calculated into it, but I just want you to know that that's only temporary to hold my tools at this time. So I knew when I did my driveway back 11 years ago, it was right on the property line, but it was a dirt driveway at the time. It was never paved to begin with, but it was where the driveway pretty much was laid out. When I did the driveway, I'm right on the property line, but now I can cut 3 feet off of that driveway on the long side of it, which is about 100 feet long, and then 2 feet around the radius there. Again, I don't want to lose my turnaround in the front of the house, because my mother needs it, my wife could use it, we all use the turnaround, it just makes sense to get out onto Main Street. But the patio's already been cut up and ready to be removed. And then, that's my lot coverage, so I don't know exactly, I never got this plan from my engineer, the surveyor. He emailed it to the town. So I don't know exactly what the lot coverage ended up being. He said I ended up decreasing somewhat from where I'm standing presently with the driveway, the patio. He said that I'm definitely, I think he said it was 34 point something. I don't even know.
35.6 according to the plan.
I'm sorry?
The plan says 35.6.
35.6? But I'm a little more than that now? He said I went down.
Yeah, we're down 0.3%.
Yeah, not by much, right?
Just, if you could just help me out, what's your frontage? Do you know? roughly?
On the street side?
Yeah.
80,
I mean, honestly, this is one of the smallest lots in town.
it's pretty narrow,
I mean,
yeah, it is very narrow.
there's no way to put a driveway in on either side of that house without getting around, without having a setback issue. So,
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
That, the existing pavement to be removed, are you removing that just to get in compliant? Or were you planning on,
Honestly, I don't want it to look like an airport runway, which I
Yep.
think it will when I'm done.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's fine. Because now we won't be parking there. The idea was to be parking in the garage.
right,
I don't need that driveway. You know, that would strictly be for visitors really at this point. So I kind of like the idea of taking that off, and it's gonna give me a more larger planting bed.
oh, okay. I was just curious if that was the reason, or,
Well, I knew that I was like, this is like, you know, I'm overstepping it here with the coverage, but when that was brought up to my attention, I realized, you know, I really don't need this driveway. I mean, at first I'm like, I'm gonna leave it.
right,
But honestly, I'd like to have it because I want to do a better planting bed than that, because I'm having a problem with
Yep.
my azaleas and stuff growing. I think I just got too much sight back from the driveway production at the
Okay.
time. But now I can put in a better loom bed, which
right,
I don't
okay,
object to that. I think it's gonna look nicer,
okay.
you know.
Just got a message, nobody can hear your voice.
Oh, hello, I'm here. At least the important people can hear me right now. Okay. The mask makes it a little difficult.
But it's even more so if you're not speaking into the microphone.
so I think, so on this one, I guess I'd like to have you go through the 5 variance criteria. Just
I'm sorry, I need my papers then, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So we do this on any variance request, because we have to, our decision has to be based on these 5 criteria.
Right.
And so that's why we ask everybody to go through them. I think it's on page 3-ish,
Page
Yeah.
3?
4, maybe?
John,
Yes. I think I have it.
Okay.
Roy? Application for variance?
yep,
Okay.
Yep.
Page 3?
Yeah,
page 3.
says 3 at the bottom.
The facts supporting this request, all must be completed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The proposed variance will not be contrary to the public interest because lot coverage will be less than or equal to the existing conditions, which I went down just a couple of points, right?
Yep,
The spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved because actual coverage will be directed more to the rear of the property. Obviously, by cutting the driveway down and thinning it up,
yeah.
will give a better street appearance. Yeah. There is substantial justice in granting the variance because there would be no gain to the general public by denying the request. And the values of the surrounding properties will not be diminished because the improvements will increase surrounding property values. Little enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship because it would prohibit construction of the planned garage.
Fair enough.
It would be difficult to build a garage if I didn't have a driveway to get to it.
Yeah, true that. Okay, does anyone on the board have questions or comments about this application?
Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
No, it looks okay to me.
Okay, well, let's carry on to the second one, how's that? So, what the heck is it? So the second one is to permit the extension of existing driveway to be 3.3 feet from the property sideline. Okay.
Do you want me to read those? Yeah. Those, okay.
Well,
I'm
actually,
sorry.
are they the same, those same answers, right?
Pretty much the same.
We'll take it that you read them.
Yeah.
But does anyone have any additional questions about this variance request, which is allowing the extension to be 3.3 feet from the property line?
No.
Jim?
No? No.
It's pretty straightforward.
Once we understood the limitations on this property, it took us a little while to wrap our arms around it, honestly.
I've been on that limitation for a few years because I've been wanting to build a new garage. And, I mean, the one I have has been mice infested, so you can't ever get that stench out of it, but, and then my sweet daughter said one day, "Dad, stick it in the backyard." Never dawned on me I could push it back, which, to me, that just got all the wheels going. But it is a great option, because there is no sideline on that property.
Right.
Actually, your only option.
Is absolutely the best option.
You can always build up. Okay. Is there anybody out there in the audience speaking for this, in favor of this, these two variances? I'm hearing crickets.
In favor of.
I'm in favor.
What's wrong, Dee?
Oh, no, nothing, just making sure that anyone remotely needs to see the traffic here.
Oh, I wasn't sure how to get that to happen.
You can do that right now.
Abandoned.
Again.
Yep.
That's much better than seeing me up there. How do I still see the participants?
Oh, click on participants. Bottom. Yep. And then you have two attendees, but neither have raised their hands. Yep, those are us. And
No raised hands. And no raised hands.
I'm sorry, what?
There are no
no
raised
raised
hands.
hands.
Okay.
And I did not receive any emails by 3:30 today.
Okay. Well, okay, that's good all around. It's funny, Mr. Doherty. It took us a couple months to get used to being remote. Now we
sure.
come back, we got to get used to that,
I agree with that. Just go with the flow.
You got it.
Do the best we can.
So there's nobody, we had one person in favor. Do we have anybody out there speaking against? Dee, did you receive anything?
No, I did not.
Okay. I guess with that, as we did last month, we're going to close this hearing, I should say, and we're going to go into deliberative session and make our decision. You're welcome to stay. You could go home and watch on TV if you so desire. Either way, you'll hear
I
from...
like seeing you guys in person. Well, last month.
No, that's a,
Please accept my apology.
you had a lot of...
I think like before, I
Could I
think
ask
it's...
for a motion, please, before we have discussion?
Well, actually, we got to do them one by one anyhow.
Oh, okay.
Who will read the first draft motion?
I like when Gary reads them.
I move to grant the request for a variance from Article 5, Table 220-32D.C3, to allow 35.6% lot for the property located at 97 Main Street, Tax Map 39, Lot 77, with the following conditions. The property owner shall provide the Department of Building Safety with certification by a licensed land surveyor as the final percentage of lot coverage.
Second?
I'm sorry, that was you, Mr. Bealow?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. This is a tiny lot. I personally didn't see any way he was going to they could meet that kind of the lot coverage requirement.
It's gonna make it better.
Well, the thing is,
think
too,
so.
if you look at that colored photo that they had provided
Yep.
towards the back, just picture those other buildings gone, and then
Right.
the garage centered in the back. It's so much nicer.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just less congested. It's just better.
Yeah, it's improvement for the neighbor to his
Absol-
left.
Absolutely.
The neighbor to the right is with the AT&T switching center, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm pretty certain they don't care. I don't think there's anybody living in there. So, okay, let's go down to the variance criteria here. Proposed variance isn't contrary to the public interest. You know, the lot coverage is no worse than it is now, existing, and maybe a percentage or so less. But even if it, I look at it as like, how many square feet that is, and it's a minimal amount of square feet, because that lot is so tiny. So I don't think it's contrary to the public. Spirit and intent of the ordinance is preserved. Actual coverage will be in back more, less in front, a little less in front. There's substantial justice in granting the variance, because, yeah, there really is no gain to the public in not granting this, you know, so it would be inappropriate to deny on that basis. Values of surrounding properties won't be diminished. You know, it's, you know, equal to or, you know, nicer look from the front, which will increase the property values all around. Well, yeah. Literal enforcement of the provisions would result in an unnecessary hardship, because, you know, he can still build his garage. Well, actually, no, we'd put that in condition. He wouldn't be able to build his garage. He'd just have to have his vehicles outside rusting, and as they all do in winter. You know, and I think that's a hardship. So. Any more discussion on that?
No. Nope.
Dee, would you call the vote?
Stan Lloyd,
Yes.
Don Glenn,
Yes?
Karen Ingham,
Yes.
Jim Unger,
Yes.
Peter Bealow.
Yes,
Your vote is 5-0-0.
thank you. Let's look at the second variance request. Would somebody make a motion for that?
Go ahead, Gary.
He's
I
our
move to-
designated motion maker.
I move to grant the request for a variance from Article 3, 220-9.1 to allow a residential driveway extension to be no closer than 3.3 feet of the side property line at 97 Main Street, tax map 39, lot 77, with the following condition. The property owner shall provide the Department of Building Safety with certification by a licensed land surveyor as to the proper location of the new driveway.
I'll second that. Okay, again, this is very similar to the first one. You know, you've got the existing driveway already up to the lot line. Yeah. And it's gonna be cut back from that.
And you're going to be missing 3 buildings that you don't have to look at.
Yes. Very true. Okay, let's go down the variance criteria. It's not contrary to the public interest. You know, it's narrowing the driveway up front where public sees it. It's pulling it away a little bit from the property line. And really, it's not, he's already got several sheds where the driveway's gonna go, you know, it's like, so it's really not there's no net gain to there's no gain to the town in saying, leave the sheds there, we're not gonna let you do the driveway. So it's not, I don't think it's contrary to public interest. Spirit and intent is preserved. You know, through adding the length of the though it's going to be longer, it will be narrower than present. There's a substantial justice in granting the variance. Again, I don't see any gain to the public by denying this, or by denying it. And the applicant clearly would lose by denying it, lose something. So, values of surrounding properties won't be diminished. Again, I can't see how they'd be diminished, especially getting rid of the sheds, moving the garage to where it is, or to where he's proposing, and narrowing the driveway can't hurt property values.
I think it'd be the opposite.
Yeah. Literal enforcement of the provision of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. Yeah, it would prohibit a construction of a garage that's, and that makes the whole property, more attractive, more livable too. And this is all in the land, the size of that property. We're not talking about a smallish property with a McMansion on it. We're talking about a moderately sized to small size house on a tiny property, and there's just no getting around that. Any other comments or questions or anything?
Nope. Nope, not at all.
Dee, would you call?
John Glynn,
Yes?
Gary Ingham,
Yes.
Jim Unger,
Yes.
Peter Bealow,
Yes.
Dan Lloyd.
Yes.
Your vote is 5-0-0.
Thank you much. As always, you can't start construction for 30 days.
Can get a permit for 30 days.
Or get a permit for 30 days, excuse me. Well, yeah, and we know, of course, you'd never build without a permit. In order to allow someone to appeal this, should they wish. And Dee will send you a formal notice within 5 business days.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I was approved for the garage last month. Does that mean I can pull a permit to get at this point, anything for that?
Yeah,
Because I wanted to do some site work. And
Yep.
that's fine. Perfect. Thank you.
there you go. Hey, good luck, good luck with it.
You bet.
And I'll be down in the next week or so to drop off more books.
Yeah, stop on by. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, folks. You do the same.
Enjoy. I was looking at that. I think we have another case before us.
Yes. We have one being withdrawn and one being substituted for the withdrawal.
Okay,
I'm
let's
going to
not-
read the withdrawal first.
Do you really need to do the withdrawal?
To put it in the official record, yes, I do.
Okay.
Continued from April 29, 2021, withdrawn, this has been withdrawn by the applicant, but the case was a request from Elder Baror for a variance from Article 3, Section 220-6 to permit a salvage yard, which is a non-conforming use and not permitted in any zoning district. The property is located at 233 Main Street, tax map 31, lot 21 in the MDR district. The property owners of record are Lori E. Thomas Revocable Trust, Lori E. Thomas half interest, and Stephen R. Thomas and Judith R. Thomas Revocable Trust, Stephen R. Thomas and Judith R. Thomas half interest. And we now have, in its place, we have number 21-09, a request from Eldar Barar for a variance from Article 3, Section 220-32EB, to permit a salvage yard in the MDR zoning district, which is not a permitted use. The property is located at 233 Main Street, tax map 31, lot 21 in the MDR zoning district. The property owners of record are Lori E. Thomas Revocable Trust, Lori E. Thomas trustee, half interest, and Stephen R. Thomas and Judith R. Thomas Revocable Trust, Stephen R. Thomas and Judith R. Thomas trustees, half interest. I just want to read for the record the letter that we got for the withdrawal on the first one. This is from law firm of Prunier and Perlman out of Nashua. Enclosed, please find a new application for variance of 233 Main Street, Plaistow. Please consider the previous application for variance withdrawn. And it talks about the fees that are enclosed, and it is signed Gerald R. Prunier.
Okay, thank you much. You need to be sitting there? Dean, do you need to be sitting there?
No, I was just checking to see if there's anyone,
I think there are people here watching for that one.
Yeah, have a seat.
I hope you're okay with company.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Gerald Prunier. I have offices at 20 Trafalgar Square in Nashua, New Hampshire. I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of the applicant and the owner of the property.
Okay, well, let's start at the beginning, and you know, I know we went through some of this last month, but let's start with a clean slate.
I'll try to hit the high points.
Yeah, and just in case there's somebody out there watching who needs to hear the background.
Yeah. Yes. This property is located, as indicated, at 233 Main Street, and has been in that location in operation for some over 70 to 80 years, I'm told. I'm not quite that old, so I can't go way back, but I'm told that that's the case. It was used as a salvage yard all that period of time by the owners and then by Anchor, who used it for the same purpose until it stopped. The piece of property is kind of unique in the sense, as you see the blue line outlining the property, it's not your usual rectangle or square lot line. It has various nooks and crannies around the whole thing, so it is unique in its sole purpose. The property is, the reasons for the variance have been outlined in the application as to all the issues. The main part of this is that it is unique in a sense, first in its outline. Second of all, the fact that it is in the middle of many businesses that are outlined in Mr. Moran's letter that's enclosed in the file, as well as the fact that it's two major businesses that are on each side of it, as well as a, yes, thank you. I'm sorry if I may have some problems. I had a doctor open up my nose so I could breathe on Monday, and now I can't breathe.
Oh,
So it's just because of the blood. Once the blood's gone,
Well,
this
thank you
comes
for being
out.
able to attend anyhow, and
Yeah.
you know, we'll muddle on.
If I could, yeah, so if I'm not speaking loud enough or you're not hearing me, please let me know so that I can speak up louder.
You're 5 by 9 here on this side. We can
Thank
hear
you.
I'm struggling a little, to be honest with you.
You what?
I'm struggling a little bit to hear you.
Oh, sorry, I'll
Hold on.
try.
Dee, it might be easier if you moved yourself closer to Jim, or maybe between, you know, between Dan and I. I mean, just because he's kind of talking straight on to us.
If I need to, I will, thank you.
The piece of property, as I say, is in the middle of an industrial zone, in essence. It has not been used since for other than the salvage purposes, which were used for some 70 to 80 years. There is a residential house across the street. There is one next door to it. But for most of the purposes, the site was used for salvage purposes. The land has some problems in the sense that it has, because of the fact of the salvage use, has some glass and metal pieces of chips in the land itself. The property is in the public interest in that it is not out of character with the lot. That the lot has been there, the buildings have been there. There's no intent to change the buildings. So it's been the character of that area and that neighborhood for the many years that we spoke about. It does not adversely affect the public in that area, or hadn't affected the public in that area for a long period of time. The intent of the applicant is to do some landscaping and fix the buildings and do some painting. The value of the property, surrounding properties will not be diminished. They'll be improved by the fact of the landscaping and so forth that's involved in the area. Again, it won't be out of character with the area. There's nothing new that's being added to the area. Its building is staying the same. It is an advantage to the owner of the piece of property is having a difficult time trying to sell the property. The property is, as I say, is been used so long because of the salvage areas of the business in the area that it would not be adverse to the general public, and it'd be a justice to the applicant of the property to be able to use it because of the physical characteristics of the property, as well as the other abutters to the property, which are industrial in nature as well. It has no water and sewage, so for the public aspect of it, it is almost like a simple lot, single lot, excuse me. I have nothing further. Whatever the board has, I'd be glad to answer the questions.
Right off the bat, I've got one question. Is the pictometry here a fair representation of what's on the property now? And what I mean is, like, if I look at the applicant's property, I'm not seeing any cars beyond where the property kind of necks down to be very narrow. It looks like everything's more towards Main Street, like there's a row of, or a couple rows of cars or something along the northern border going down towards Main. Is that kind of what it's like now? In contrast to the property above, it's got a ton of cars all over the property.
State your name and address for the board,
Please.
for the record.
My-
And the chairman's question, please.
My name is Eldar Ba'or. I live in 27 Birchbrook Road in Lynn, Mass. It is safe to assume that I've been there 2 weeks ago. There's really nothing there. Most of the cars you see over there is the business next door that is accurate, which is full of vehicle. I mean, it is a live walking business, but there's really nothing on that property right now.
Okay.
I mean, the concrete slabs are there. I mean, the buildings are there. The building in the front looks very bad. Needs a lot of work to put into it, which is obviously we'll do it. But it's I mean, it's a salvage yard. It looks like a salvage yard. It's
Any questions from the board at this point?
Yeah, what type of salvage yard is it going to be? Is it going to be a loaded up salvage yard where people go in and, you know, it's end-to-end cars, stacked 2, 3 on
no.
top
So
of each
so
other?
I'm in the industry right now. I've been doing this for quite some time. I don't do any loose metal. I don't have any plans to do loose metal. There's not going to be people driving in with dishwashers in the back of their trucks. The only thing I do is complete automobiles for parts and export. Which is basically what Shia Brothers do right next to it. So it's going to look very similar. It's going to be nice and organized lot. Everything is going to be done indoors. And the reason why I'm trying to purchase this property is because I need a storage room. That's it. So this is a good empty, clear storage lot for me to put cars in the back. But it's not going to be. You will not see people driving in with pickup trucks and dropping loose scrap metal. I don't do that. I don't buy it. I don't advertise for it. I don't deal with it in any ways. I only deal with complete automobiles, which is it's not going to look like your average scrap metal business where there's mountains of scrap. That's not going to happen.
And what about the separation between the property and the backs of all the existing houses? They're going to be fences, trees to some sort of a
Yeah,
buffer
so-
zone, so those people
So
won't
I'm
have
planning to
see
do,
that?
I'm planning to do excessive, if the board will approve the request, I'm planning on doing excessive, excessive improvement to the property. The building in the front is really not usable. It's a very old building, needs to be tore down, put a new building in. The gates, I'm going to fence the whole property in. To be honest, I'm not going to use the whole thing. It's a big piece of land. I'm most likely going to use until that little the pitch over there.
That narrow part is?
So basically, if I were to foresee the future,
Chair.
it will look like chia bottles, right?
Put them to the chair.
Right up to here, something like this, basically.
Yeah.
Copy paste. I don't need more than that. I do need the building. The building is very good for me. I'm planning on doing 98% of the work inside anyway, so I mean it's a good fit. And you cannot really look at it any other thing as a junkyard. I mean it's a junkyard. You can see 80 years of use on the property.
Yeah.
You can see the metal, the concrete slabs. You can see the building. It's nothing else than a salvage job.
Would customers coming in, would they be picking their own parts?
No.
Okay.
So I have a small yard right now in Middleton. That's the reason, Middleton, Mass. That's the reason why I'm trying to purchase this property. I don't do pick and pull. We only ship, so we box and ship out. If people call, my employees take the part out and bring it to the office. There's no running around. Mostly for liability. A and B, the damage. People do more damage on a pick and pull
Right.
than actual. So
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's salvage yards, and then now I don't know if you're familiar with Bow Auto Parts up in Bow, New Hampshire.
yeah.
You go there, you wouldn't even
Looks
think
like
yeah, exactly.
Looks like
It looks like an office
electric
building.
store.
It's beautiful. And then you go to some other local stores around here, and it's
So if you were to walk into my yard in Middleton, it wouldn't look like Bow Auto Parts because it's small. Bow is big, but it will look very similar. The ground is clean. It's all. I mean, I have the town. I visit my lot every quarter. The building inspector. I'm up to standards, up to code. Everything is done very clean and professional. I mean, I know what people think about that. People say salvage yard, but it's going to look similar to Bow in the essence of the cleanness than, two guys running around and picking up. That's not going to happen.
okay.
And the owner of the room, I mean, they try to do something else with it in the past couple of months. The broker is here; he can explain that, but there's really nothing to. There's nothing else that this piece of property can be than what it is already.
When you bring cars in, do you drain all the fluids
Yes.
before they go in
Yeah.
the yard?
Yeah, we drain everything. There's no oil. There's no nothing. And not only that, with the way the weather is here, summer or winter, you want to do everything inside anyways. I mean, it's really, in the winter, it's too rough to walk outside. In summer, it's too hot. I mean, a month ago, we were wearing jackets. Now it's too hot to be outside. And so it's all going to get done in the building that currently is in the back. And then the one in the front, probably if this is going to get approved, probably in the next, I want to say, maybe 18 to 24 months, we'll put a new building in the front, something that looks very, something I can use and will be presentable to the surrounding area, because right now it looks like it's been burned down.
Right, oh, yeah.
I just want to note for the applicant that if you're going to start changing anything about the site, you do have to get a new site plan approved by the planning board.
100%, yes, ma'am.
So, right now, I'm seeing 10 residential abutters to that property. I think I have it right. One very top, there's the whole road down Kelly Road, that's eight more. And then there's one on Main Street. And I'm not counting the ones across the street, but there's several there as well. So, saying this is really surrounded by industrial is not really correct. I mean, there's two commercial slash, not really, ugly commercial, I'll call it. I can't call it an industrial users, but we've got 10 residential abutters to this property. And one of the things that concerns me is if we grant this variance, you know, this property could end up, I mean, with better looking buildings and all that, sounds great, but could still end up looking like that property in
North.
31-19, you know, basically full of cars in 10 people's backyards. Not in their backyards, but abutting their backyards. So,
Mr. Chairman, as the applicant stated, he wants to do some landscaping to take away the views from some of the, that are areas that are, there are no trees, to replace those so that the people will not see the backyards of this particular place. He wants to do some landscaping and do,
and, you know, that's I think a difficult task in the sense that, as I recall, Kelly Road, as you go up it from Main Street, is going up, you're going uphill. So those houses are gonna look down at that. So, you know, landscaping is gonna, while a great idea, it's gonna take a little while to grow in.
It is not as complicated to hide. It is time consuming and will consume money on my end to hide it. But it's the way this property is set up. You are right. It is going up, but there's so much stuff in the back which is easy to hide just with a regular simple commercial fence. 6 or maybe even if the town approves 8, I don't know, but it's not.
It's not impossible.
It's only possible, yes, that's what I'm saying. And I'm willing to do what needs to be done to be in code. I run a clean shop. I can give the council multiple references from people that are in the industry that knows what I do and how I do it. And it's really, I really do run a clean shop. This is not going to be a problematic property.
I have another question. What would your hours of operation be?
Right now, I operate from 7 o'clock in the morning until 3:30 every day in Middleton.
And what about Saturday and Sunday?
Sunday I close, Saturday I open half a day until 12:30, 1 o'clock, depends when they're done. But we start early and they're done early every day. I have, in my property right now in Middleton, there's an apartment building, there's a family of 5 who lives literally on the property. And on the property, and there's no issues, you know what I mean? It's a family with 3 kids and we get along great. There's 3 neighbors in the back, which is kind of in the back of the property. There's never been any issues. I mean, yeah, I know there's a bad rap for this industry. I realize that, but it's not going to be the case. If there's any restrictions that if somebody wants to put in here and there, it makes sense, we'll do it. But nobody's going to be moving cars around at 6 o'clock in the evening. That's never happened.
And as far as equipment, just some,
Identical to what the Chia Brothers has, probably a loader or 2.
yep,
Which those these days
Yep.
are as quiet as a
yep,
car.
yep.
I mean, that's
And you're not crushing nothing there.
no, right now, it's not a reason for me to crush. I only need this for storage, basically. I gotta be able to have some depth in the business with inventory. And not any crushing there, no. I have a crusher in Middleton, we crush there every day. There's never issues with it, but that's not what I'm planning on doing here. Here, I need space and I need a good solid building to walk, which one is good.
And now, okay, the other question I have, as far as recycling the cars, are you gonna be?
No, so all the cars that, basically what happens if the car will live, there's no equipment there, so it's gonna get to probably Schnitzer in Everett or.
But what I'm saying is, is there gonna be 8 or 10 getting loaded to a transport and pulled out?
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's probably gonna happen right next to the building. And that process, which I do every day now, twice a day, takes, if I would say it takes 25 minutes, I'm exaggerating. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a quick in and out. It's faster to load those trucks than it is to load a 4-car carrier, basically.
Okay.
And again, I mean, it's literally gonna be a copy paste to what the Chia Brothers are doing. And if I would say something which is, if the owner of the property would continue renewing the license, right, this discussion would even take place, right?
Oh, no, we get it.
I mean, if somebody would just, wouldn't stop working there and pay the fees and continue paying the fees, then there would be no issues. I mean, I think that if they could have sold the place and do something else with the place, it's already be done, but
Right.
there's nothing that can be done with that property.
Yeah, the last operation was a little on the rough side.
I'm sorry, say it again?
The last yard that was there was a little bit on the rough side. It was pretty messy.
And we can all close this and go to my yard right now so you guys can see straight out of the blue how it looks. It is not going to be messy. Maybe the inside of the building is going to be a little bit messy because again, there's going to be some process. I mean, I'm not kidding anybody, but it's going to be indoors. I mean, nobody wants to walk outside anyway. It's not that people is going to be pulling out hoses and it's not going to happen. I do a lot of exporting, which is literally exactly what Chia Brothers do. And basically what we do is we dismantle the cars, we put it in containers, and we load it and ship it out. I prefer doing that all day long than selling an alternator. If somebody comes in, needs an alternator for $30. I mean, it is a salvage job, but it's not your average, salvage job.
You drain all the fluids when they come in?
We run the fluids, EPA number for the business, only use licensed vendors to take bad gas, good gas, bad oil, good oil. We recycle everything basically. And like I said, but just complete automobiles. I mean, if you guys are worried about loose scrap metal, which I understand, you guys can put it as a clause saying no loose scrap metal, no dishwashers and sinks and stuff like that, because for me it's not worth the bidding anyway.
D, as far as, it would go in front of planning board as far as site plan, as far as his recycling of fluids and things of that nature, correct?
He'd have to prove all that stuff as part of the site plan.
Right, so that has to go to planning board anyways. Okay.
And it's a lot easier when everything is done indoor. You're absolutely right.
Oh, yeah, no,
I'm gonna go there, but it's a lot easier for me to, I'm not worried about that part, because it's very well manageable on a 40 building.
Right.
If I have to add an oil trap, add an oil trap. It's a non-issue in the long run for me. I'm not here to I've been doing this for 15 years now, maybe 14 years. I run a clean shop. I have a good set of employees. We do it professionally, and I don't even want to talk about the employment situation, because probably I will employ here maybe 5 to 7 people, maybe 8 people. I know it's not a Walmart, but it's
It's something.
it's something, yeah.
No, I get it.
On a very good, steady, recession-proof industry.
Actually, in bad times, more people buy parts to fix what they have.
What happened in the past 2 years is just the prices went to the roof because of the supply chain.
Yeah, you can't get parts.
Yeah.
Like I say, I think any skepticism the board has would be like John had mentioned, that the prior vendor there just wasn't all that.
Right.
But like I say, you're putting our mind a little bit more at ease with that.
I mean, if you guys want reference letters from Schnitzer, which is a public traded company, which I work a lot. I do a lot of business with Copa, which also is a gigantic company, and I can give you those references, and they'll tell you. I mean, we solid, clean shop, good business, good people.
Gary, anything?
No?
Seems to me like if the original owner had just redone their permit
It would
for
be
the
a-
last 2 years,
it'd be a
we
moot
could
point.
be stuck with a much worse place.
Right.
That wouldn't be subject to planning board review.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of agree with, if something else could have been done, it wouldn't be sitting there.
No, that's a tough lot.
It is.
I've done subdivisions, I've worked for an engineer, and good luck putting a subdivision in there, it's not gonna happen.
In retrospect also, Hank, there's been a salvage yard been there for how many years?
Like 70 or 80?
And it didn't stop anybody
Since
from,
I was a kid, because I used to go there.
but it hasn't stopped anybody from moving in on Kelly Road.
Right.
That's how I'm looking at it. It's not like it was an enigma. It's been there.
D, is that low density or what?
MDR.
MDR. So side setbacks would be,
50 feet to residential. You want to look at table 22032I.
yep, I'm looking at it.
So commercial use to a residential use is 50-foot setback on the side.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not looking straight up at the MDR setback, you have to look at it as a commercial use.
Yep, I'm there. Well, let's go through the variance criteria, shall we?
Sure.
The what?
Yes, you're page 1 of 2 on the, you know, on the 5 variance criteria. We haven't really gone through those, so let's go through them. How's that?
Yeah, they're all in the application.
I'm sorry, what?
You want me to read the application?
Basically, you could paraphrase if you wish, but, yeah. You know, granting the requested variance won't be contrary to the public interest because,
For some reason or other, I took my wrong glasses. Did you want to read the page and a half? Yeah. Thank you.
Granting of the requested variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Under the circumstances of the present location of the property, the history of the property, and the limited interest in the property for residential use, it is not in the public interest to retain the restriction to residential. There has been little interest in the site for residential purposes. The site is particularly well suited for a salvage yard, since its prior use was a salvage yard, and little to no changes have been made to the property. To provide guidance regarding the public interest, court have recognized the two approaches to ascertain whether granting a variance would violate an ordinance is basic zoning objectives. One approach is to examine whether the variance would alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and another is to examine whether granting the variance would threaten public health, safety, or welfare. Here, the neighborhood is a neighborhood of mixed uses. There are 2 substantial businesses abutting the property, as well as a few residential homes. In fact, one of the businesses is similar to the use being proposed by the applicant. The property was used for over 70 years as a salvage business. It was a non-conforming business until recently. The property will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood because there will be no physical changes to the property, and it does not threaten public health, safety, or welfare. Number 2, the proposed use will observe the spirit of the ordinance. The requirement that a variance be not contrary to public interest is related to the requirement that the variance observe the spirit of the ordinance. Here, the applicant's proposal will observe the spirit of the ordinance. The proposed use of the property is the same as it's used to for decades. The public's interest, as discussed, is number 1 above, is also consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. The applicant's use will be similar to the abutting business. Number 3, substantial justice will be done by granting the variance. The property has remained idle for the past few years despite recent marketing efforts. The property suffers from physical restrictions in that there is no public water or sewer, which impose physical limitation on the development of the property, as well as the soil properties which have remnants from the previous business. Under New Hampshire law, any loss to the individual that is not outweighed by the gain to the general public is an injustice. Here, with the physical limitations and soil irregularities, there is materials and substantial loss to the individual owner with no gain to the public. The purpose and goals of zoning are accomplished by granting the variance to the property. The use does not have an adverse impact or harm to the abutters, as nothing changes as to the physical characteristics. Substantial justice is accomplished by granting the variance. Number 4. The proposed use will not diminish the values of surrounding properties. The property will be updated, enhanced, and landscaped. There will be no adverse impact on the value of the surrounding properties abutting this property. A letter has been submitted by an expert stating that there will be no diminution to the property. The enhancement of the property could add value to the abutter's property. Number 5. Literal enforcement of the ordinance results in unnecessary hardship. Over the past 10 to 20 years, New Hampshire has clearly confirmed that the state respects for individuals to make reasonable use of their land. New Hampshire courts have recognized that sometimes properties are uniquely situated or especially appropriate for a particular use. In those instances, the court have declared that the variance is appropriate because of their special circumstances. Here, we have such a case. The property is located on Main Street and a highway in Plaistow. It is highly traveled roadway and not conclusive for residential use. In addition to the unique and inappropriate location of residential use, the property also has an unusual limitations and restrictions from the lack of public water and sewer. The zoning requirements limiting to residential as applied to this property interfere with the proposed reasonable use of the property. In recent years, New Hampshire has also confirmed that we must be careful not to deprive individuals of reasonable use of their land when the restriction will have no public benefit or will not otherwise accomplish purposes of the zoning ordinance. In this case, the property is a sandwich between two commercial and industrial businesses and places a hardship on the land to try to use it for residential purposes.
Just so you know, virtually no residential property in Plaistow has sewer or public water. We're all on septic, we're virtually all on septic and wells. So that is not an unusual circumstance on that property. Just FYI. And I'd like a second to read again the letter from the Realtor. You folks can see it right after the pictometry pictures.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I believe this is the Realtor, and I believe he has some pictures of the lot, if you'd like to see them.
absolutely. I'm sorry, I had no idea.
Waiting for the break in the action to be able to.
My name's Douglas Martin.
You need to speak into the microphone,
Yeah,
sir.
so it'd help if you sit down, yeah.
My name is Douglas Martin. I'm with KW Commercial Real Estate. My home address is 5 Tenney Farm Road in Sandown, New Hampshire. I'm the listing agent. I've been working for Laurie and Steve now for a couple of years on this project. And what I brought forward tonight, I'm the one that wrote this letter that you're just reviewing now. Okay. And then I also have in my marketing package, I got 3 of them, so we'll have to pass them around a little bit. But they're photos of the property that I took probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I'd like to share those with you also.
Okay, I just want to make you aware that anything you hand us, we've got to keep.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, so some
That's
people
fine.
bring in like a single copy of a picture or something, and they need it back, so I just want to make you aware.
No?
Okay,
No,
great.
that's fine.
Just start at the end and,
There's only 3 copies, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry?
I only brought 3.
Oh, that's okay.
Sure.
That's okay.
Yeah, and you'll just see the way the land lays, it actually.
I need to have you back at the mic, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Dee, I'm sorry. It's hard for me to sit still.
You have some pictures of a 2-family house?
Yeah, that 2-family house is part of this property, and it's currently rented. And it was actually, the Thomas family, my clients lived in that house as a kid. It was a single family back then.
Where is it on the property?
It is If we're standing there in front of the gate, it's a little building on the left-hand side of the property. It's a little brick front house that sits on the left hand that is actually within that outline of what you see there. And then next to it is another little residential property that Shire Brothers actually owns that. They bought it a few years ago, and they fixed it up, and that one they have rented residentially too. And then Shire Brothers is the big yard, and then above that is Kidder Construction.
Right.
To the right of it is the body shop.
So I'm trying to just, I'd like to go up and actually point to the thing, but I don't think the cameras can follow me. No, that's okay. So the small white rectangle in the front of that property is what is this house?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. That's right, I thought. So not the whole
I'm
property,
sorry.
mind you, but so the property really is suitable for residential because there's a two-family house there, it's rented.
Well, it's kind of been there since day one.
Okay. Now, I'm also looking at the front of your listing thing here, your listing sheets. And you're listed this strictly as industrial. Did you try to sell it as residential?
Yes. Yes, I have it
See that in here
represented.
someplace?
I represented it as being in this zone, and it could be. I'm actually the second broker. The first broker had it tried as a residential development and didn't get anywhere with it. I'll be honest with you, it's not a very attractive property, and I don't think anyone's going to build a house back there and want to look at the back of Shire Brothers or Kidder Construction or anything else. So as a residential property, it would be a very difficult development to do. There are much better properties out there for somebody to do a residential development in or a multifamilies.
Well, I'm not sure how relevant this is to this case, but was there any thought given to, if you taking a look at the map there, at buying property 11-70 and having a separate entrance from Kelly Road to the back of that property for residential use? You see that narrow strip?
Right.
There's nothing in that.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. No, that's an empty piece of land, right? I don't know if it would be big enough to put a road in.
Pete, what's that business with all those cars north of that?
Shire Brothers.
That's Shire Brothers there?
That's Shire Brothers, yeah. Yeah. They have a salvage license on that property too, but these guys, the Shire Brothers, just export repairable cars. They don't do any parts sales either. Very similar to what Aldi's trying to do here, where he does a lot of exporting. The automotive salvage industry has changed a lot. I've been a salvage auctioneer for many years prior to doing full-time real estate. So I know everybody in the industry, and I've sold quite a few of these properties. It's not a blessing, it's a curse knowing it. These are very difficult to sell for all the right reasons. But Alan at Bow Auto is probably one of the best examples of the way that this whole industry is
Should be
going.
run.
They have really cleaned it up. And on a statewide basis, the association has also gone to striving to have all of these yards be green certified. And what it is everybody has good business practices to make sure that they don't do any of the things that was done in the past where you can't do it anymore. Everything is recycled, everything is kept clean, and you keep as much of it indoors as possible.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22 area, because if somebody wanted to do residential, they'd be backed up against Shire Brothers.
Exactly.
So-
And then Kidders are the other one on that side of it, yeah.
It's really an awkward
It's,
area.
and I don't think anybody wants a bus stop out there on the state highway anyway, I mean, that's always been any type of a residential when I get a pushback. I do just commercial. My wife does residential, but I do a lot of
We have
development.
school bus stops on that road.
Yeah, I realize that, but
Any other questions or comments from the board? Dean?
He's looking for the board first.
I'm looking for the board first, and
Sorry.
but thanks for letting me know.
I'm all
James?
set.
I'm all set.
Guys?
I'm all set.
Then let's go for anybody speaking in favor.
That would probably be Ms. Thomas, would be my guess.
Yes,
Hey,
Yeah.
in
we hear
favor.
an ethereal voice.
I'm in favor.
So that is Lori Thomas, my seller.
And also, I just wanted to say, where you're concerned about the people along the Kelly Road part, those houses that back up to the back part of the yard, there's bankings. So they're basically looking in the air over, I don't know if they could even see the cars from their house.
Oh, I know what she's saying. It's
high.
It's all
lower,
bankings.
they're higher.
So at one time, yeah, both that and Shire Brothers were all excavated for a gravel pit, and this goes back way, way back. So the surface area of this yard and Shire Brothers is actually probably 8 feet lower than the backyard of the surrounding properties on Kelly Road.
Okay.
And there's a lot of stuff that is growing in the banks now, and, you know, there could be a lot more growing there, too. See, he doesn't need every inch. That isn't the industry anymore, where they would cover every inch of ground with cars and then pull parts. That is not the way the industry goes anymore, because the cars are so disposable. They only sell a few parts off of them, and then they recycle them, and they don't keep cars around for 10 or 15 years. An old car in the inventory is 5 years old now. Where it used to be you would have a 25-year-old car out there that we would all as kids go get something off of to fit on our Dodgers that we were driving.
Dean, is anybody else out there?
There are two other individuals connected, but they do not have their hands raised.
Okay, so I'll ask, is there anybody speaking against this proposal?
I did not receive any emails either, just for the record.
Okay, and nobody out there raising their hands once I asked for against?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Dean.
Thanks, Dean.
Any final questions, guys, before we go into deliberative?
Nope, not from me.
Okay, any final comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I have nothing else to say unless you guys have another question, but thank you.
Good. You can have two of these back if you'd like them. We just need to keep one.
Keep them.
You are too kind, thanks. Okay, we are now in deliberative, deliberating this. Would somebody make a motion?
My pleasure. Okay.
I gotta get him a t-shirt that says DMM
Yeah,
on
we
it.
should just give him to Gary.
Designated
Just
motion
pass it
maker.
down here. I move to grant the request for variance from Article 5, Table 220-32E.B, to allow a salvage yard to be located in the MDR zoning district for the property located at 233 Main Street, tax map 31, lot 21, with no conditions to be added at this time.
Do we have a second?
I'll say.
I'd like to add a condition, if we may. I'd like to make a condition that between this property and any residential used property, we have a 100-foot buffer.
Well, where does that come to?
I don't know.
Okay, I'd like to know that.
Well, it's 50 feet by ordinance now, correct?
Yes,
We
right.
just want to
So
add
you add
another
another 50.
Hold on,
I'm
do we have,
just trying to imagine, like, where does
Where's
that line
that,
come to?
in the yard?
You know, are you taking half the lot away or a third of the lot?
sadly, we have nothing with the dimensions of this property on it.
Yeah, I didn't see anything with dimensions.
Well, if you want to go by that building that's right up against the line, that's probably 50 feet wide.
So you could be talking that whole,
Or at least half of it.
yeah.
Are you talking about the entire perimeter or just between residences?
Between this property and the residential, which is basically the right-hand side. And there's a little bit in back as well, because there's a residential property that goes around behind that.
But Pete, C31-21,
No,
right in the middle,
yes. That's his property, yeah.
that, I don't know if you could go 50 feet from that.
Well, he has to go 50 feet.
No, I'm saying an additional.
So you're saying that neck you think is 100 feet or less?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is this for noise or for view,
That's,
or both?
I'm sorry, Jim, what?
Is this for noise or view or both?
Oh,
Because sometimes pushing things further away makes them more seeable depending on the angles.
yeah, I'm just thinking there's just an awful lot of house lots abutting this, and I want to get,
Oh, yeah.
they have never had,
Well, if they lived there prior to 2018, they did.
You gotta figure it's been a salvage yard
And a
for the last
salvage yard
70
since like
years.
the 40s. That's my whole thing, is like if somebody
They
had
bought
renewed
that
their
no-
license for 2 more years, we
Right.
wouldn't even have any control over this, and it could be far, far worse.
well, right, but back in, when was it, 1964 or earlier? The town decided they didn't want any of these salvage yards, and the fact that this license has been let go.
56.
Yeah.
Sorry, 56.
56.
Since they let that license go, I mean, we're really looking at it as a clean slate. You know, to enforce that ordinance. It's been in place since 1956, or not, so.
if the operation is done the way he says and it's done right, it's not much different than tractor supplies or anything like that, because it is a different world.
I gotta tell you, John, I don't know if you've ever gone to Bow Auto Parts.
I deal with them all the
Yeah,
time.
you wouldn't even know that was
No.
you walk in the place, it's like an office building. It's unbelievable. And if that's the clientele or the way this gentleman's gonna run his business,
Yeah, this is
you
a
can't see
different
anything.
operation.
It's a completely different entity. It's not like somebody else in town.
You know, I'm worried about this property being filled up with cars, just like the Chaya Brothers next door is.
Well, the only, like
I think we could have some restrictions on, like he said, his other property, every 3 months, send the inspector down and take a look.
But for what?
To make sure that it's not overcrowded, they're not stacked.
I mean, the
I
only,
think 100 feet away 100 feet is a lot of,
and the difference between Chaya Brothers isn't a salvage yard. They're a rebuildable yard. People are going in there, they're buying the cars as is they got salvage titles and they're rebuilding them. So they need those cars to be there because that's where their bread and butter is.
Right, they're not
This
buying.
gentleman, if those cars are sitting on the lot, he's not making any money.
they just strip them, inventory them, ship them, and get rid of the carcass.
Otherwise, that's money sitting there.
Nobody's gonna wanna put houses in there, because they're gonna be backed up to Chaya Brothers and the other one, so
I mean, I get what.
Although there's a two-family there now that's rented.
But it's been there,
Right.
and they cohabitated, and nobody wants, quote, salvage yards. They don't want the 1950s and 60s
True.
salvage yards.
And that's not,
But this is different.
If we grant this variance, then the day after we grant it, Chaya Brothers can buy that property and expand their operation into it fully.
Or by the unused property that
Right.
this gentleman's not gonna
No,
use?
because they'd be tearing down a house. That's a different, each case is
So I'm just
unique.
thinking about the case that, if, I'm looking at how many cars are on the Chaya Brothers property. They buy that the day after we grant this variance, they can expand that density of cars all the way out to the back of 233 Main.
It looks like a lot, but if you go to Chaya Brothers, he's got a lot of empty space. They're just a constant rotation. He doesn't need any more property.
He wants them in and out.
And they're not pulling parts off of those.
No,
Those are all salvage cars for
Yep,
repair.
they're all,
for repair.
he's selling them just the way,
I've been
most
in
of
there
those.
several times.
Yeah, and they, most of them are running.
Right.
It's just, it's physical damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone's buying it to put a new front end on it and sell it.
And if you look the way his cars are, there's a lot of them, naturally. But look at how they're placed. No different than, you know, a new car dealer, all the cars on the lot. They're inventoried very nicely, not like I said, you know, they used to
Yeah.
stack them 2 and
Right.
3.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Used to climb those stairs.
And, yeah, and to the points you folks are making, you know, like, as I mentioned, there were, you know, there's 10 residential abutters, and we didn't get a letter from any of them.
And they've been living there next to a salvage yard for the
I
last,
think everybody would be here if they
Yep.
had a problem,
Or somebody would be, yeah,
loaded.
yeah.
But if we do it right, they can sell it, he can run his business, and we have a better tax base, and everybody's gonna be happy.
By doing it right, you said grant the variance, with no conditions, okay?
well, I mean, you can still have conditions, but you don't, I don't think I'd go as far as putting a 100-foot buffer in there.
At the planning board stage, will they be able to dictate how many cars they can have and what area can be used for cars and such on a site plan?
Planning board has a lot of latitude to determine what's in the best interest of the town on a site
Right.
plan.
Yeah.
I mean, like John said, I just can't imagine, I mean, don't get me wrong, Pete, I would love to see 15 more houses go in there. I just don't think it's,
It's only 8 acres.
exactly, it's
By the
8
time you put
acres.
a road in
and I wouldn't wanna live
$300 a
there.
foot.
Looking
The
at
way
that.
I'm looking at it, as far as what you're just saying about the houses, look at across, on this side of Kelly Road, where you have the Superfund cleanup site. And look how far nature has come back on that site when you look at the trail camera with the deers and the bobcats and the turkeys. The same thing would happen here. That nature would come back and it would heal itself. And then, you know, I don't see houses being out of the question.
But that's
Well, in
not.
30 years,
but
but
that,
the,
How long does the property owner have to hold?
Well,
the
that I
property
don't
for
know.
for
I'm
that
just
to
saying, I
happen?
don't see houses
right,
being out of the question.
but I understand, that's fine, well and good for the flat of 233 Main, but that's not gonna take away any of the aesthetics of Chaya Brothers.
Right.
Or anything else they have to
It's
look
a, it's a toss-up for me, I don't know.
I just hate to see an idle piece of property just sit, you know, and then have a waiting game
Yeah.
when someone could be making money and the town could be making taxes. And he's providing a service.
because we're all about recycling, and the insurance industry, you know, says that we have to recycle.
I mean, I'd rather the car's been sitting in his lot than in someone's front yard.
Yeah, well, we have some of that.
Yeah, exactly.
We do.
And no one seems to give a crap.
I mean, hell, I know somebody with a couple tractors on his property.
But you can't see them.
Oh.
And they run.
I thought you said one of them didn't.
Nope, they all run.
Perhaps it will be helpful to step through the variance criteria.
We're getting to that, yeah.
I thought you were going down that garden path there for a second, so
I had just actually went over to the variance criteria.
thought I'd pull you back up.
Gee, this is usually where I'd stop and get a cup of coffee at home, but see, I can't do that.
Okay. Granting the requested variance isn't contrary to the public interest. What do you think about that, John?
I think it wouldn't be against the public interest, I think it'd be good. It's a typical Plaistow unique piece of property.
I think because of the, you know, the noise is deafening from the residents, no one there seems to have an issue. Like John said, they'd be here with their hands up.
I have to play the other side of this one here.
Absolutely.
The ordinance was originally put in because the people of the town didn't want this to happen. You know, if you don't grandfather your license in, it's gone. And it's gone. I mean, and as far as the residents not saying anything, if past history means anything, as soon as this business starts to go in there, they'll come out of the woodwork complaining about it.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
shame on them.
Well,
I just think.
saying.
We'll just tell people it's a storage unit.
what's that?
We'll just tell people it's storage units, they expect that.
I mean, I just take in consideration the uniqueness of this property and where it's at.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was squared off and there wasn't a Chaya brother and it was, like you said, sandwiched between but that's not the case. It's almost like the residents are sandwiched between the commercial.
Businesses, yeah.
And that's the difference. That's a screwed up piece of property. And I don't know.
I mean, not to mention, you know, if they put that ordinance in 1956, it was a totally different industry.
Yeah, they were
It was a
stacked
different
five
industry
high.
in the 70s when I was a kid.
They were crushing
Climb
them.
3 high, if
I
you
used
needed
to
a
go
gas
there as a
tank,
kid and play in
it
the
was still full of
junkyard.
gas that
Yeah,
got
you
poured
would
on the
climb
ground.
forever.
Exactly. They were draining the oil on the ground and everything else.
Exactly.
So, I mean, and that's the thing.
Not a single one of these sites that isn't contaminated if it's been that way since the 40s and 50s.
But since then, the town hasn't seen fit to revoke that either. You know, so,
I don't think it's ever been brought up, though, either.
There's only a certain few of these properties in town.
true. Okay, the proposed use will observe the spirit of the ordinance. You know, I'm having grave difficulty with that. The spirit of the ordinance is the town wants that chunk of town to go towards residential. And, you know, there's none of this, in my mind, this does not, you know, address the spirit of the ordinance at all.
Now, the spin on that is, now that hasn't been a salvage yard since 2017, correct?
Right.
Now, you would think in today's situation with housing and everything else, that if anybody wanted to push the pedal down and do a residential area, wouldn't now be the time? Because there is such a shortage as far as residential homes, you can't find a place to buy. But that place is still sitting there stagnant.
Yeah, but also,
And for how much longer?
but it's also being marketed as industrial. If I went on MLS or on Zillow, would I see this? I'll bet I won't.
Yeah, but I would think a developer.
Developers search the assessors maps looking for open properties. That's what they used to do in the 80s when I was in that business. They'd approach every farm, every open field to put houses in. There's issues on properties like this. Sometimes on properties like this, you start excavating, you'll wonder what you'll find.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're stuck with a property that can go nowhere. There's some of those in Amesbury, right on Route 110.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
Vacant for 30 years.
Yep. Still, that has nothing to do with the spirit of the ordinance. Perhaps substantial justice would be done by granting the variance. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Well, is it substantial justice to the property owner? It's allowing them to use their property, which right now they can't. I assume, we didn't ask, but I assume this gentleman is purchasing the property?
You can't ask them now.
Oh, we can't ask anymore, never mind. I'm new at this.
Okay, proposed use will not diminish the values of surrounding properties?
Hasn't so far.
Yeah, but for a number of years, there's been nothing back there.
Well, but I would hazard a guess that every one of those properties on Kelly Road were probably built while that was a salvage yard.
True.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Right.
No, yeah, no doubt. So that's true. Literal enforcement of the ordinance results in an unnecessary hardship. Again, unnecessary hardship, we're looking at going with the land, not, really, there's no, what's with the land that's an unnecessary hardship. The applicant says it's on a highly traveled roadway, not conducive, not conclusive for residential uses, but there's residential uses north of there and south of there and across the street. And then we learned tonight that there's a residential use on the property. In addition to the unique and inappropriate location for residential use, the property also has unusual limitations and restrictions from the lack of public water and sewer, which is not unique at all in this town, since the whole bloody town is that way.
That's a moot point.
That's moot. The zoning requirements limiting to residential as applied to this property interfere with the proposed use of the property. He said reasonable use. Well, it does. It does interfere with the proposed use of the property, but you can't put a Walmart there either. It's like, I really believe that's a moot point. So I'm having difficulty with this. For me.
Well, I just think looking at it from a property owner's standpoint, they're either gonna sit on it and pay taxes for a long, long time, or maybe they'll stop paying their taxes, I don't know, but at least it's allowing the property to be used.
And that's the
And the
thing.
town will also have some control in the planning board process of
Right.
what is done there. Because maybe, maybe they'll just have, last meeting, we heard that there was some junky garage in there doing business. Maybe someone else will just move in and start doing business there, not in the best of ways.
Which, by the way, isn't an approved use either, and I'm
Yep.
surprised at that. So, for me, I'm not seeing that we're meeting all 5 criteria for a variance. I mean, what Jim, what you're saying makes sense, but it's just, they have to meet all 5 criteria, and they're not. Again, in my mind, definitely not number 5.
Well, if you were the property owner, would you find it a hardship to not be able to use your property?
But that's not I don't believe that's the right approach in looking at that.
Well, isn't it a hardship on the property owner?
It's a financial hardship, but.
No, what I'm saying is, in this hardship part, does that have to do with the property owner?
Wait a second. I have the definition in front of me.
I was gonna say, you guys just got brand new handbooks tonight.
Teach me.
Okay, the term hardship has caused more problems for boards of adjustment than anything else connected with zoning, possibly because the term is so general and has so many applications outside of zoning law. By its basic purpose, a zoning ordinance imposes some hardship on all property by setting size, dimensions, and allowable uses. The restrictions on one parcel are balanced by similar restrictions on other parcels in the same zone. When the hardship so imposed is shared equally by all property owners, no grounds for variance exist. Only when some characteristic of the particular land in question makes it different from others can unnecessary hardship be claimed. The fact that a variance may be granted in one town does not mean that in another town on an identical fact pattern that a different decision might not be lawfully reached by a zoning board. Even in the same town, different results may be reached with just slightly different fact patterns. This does not mean that either finding or decision is wrong per se. It merely demonstrates in a larger sense the home rule aspects of the law of zoning. Is the restriction on the property necessary in order to give full effect to the purpose of the ordinance, or can relief be granted to this property without frustrating the purpose of the ordinance? Is the full application of the ordinance to this particular property necessary to promote valid public purpose? Once the purposes of the ordinance provision have been established, The property owner needs to establish that because of the special conditions of the property. Application of the ordinance provision to this property would not advance the purposes of the ordinance provision in any fair and substantial way. So,
If you look at the uniqueness of that property,
Pretty unique.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty limited to what you can do there.
And what is the zoning, what is the square footage for residential in that zone?
40,000 square feet per
40,000.
dwelling unit and 150 feet of frontage.
Right,
Unless
so-
it's a planned residential development, in which case the frontage requirement per lot is not the same, and the shared open space would make up minimum lot sizing.
So you're talking 8 acres total. And by the time you put a roadway down the middle of it, which is very, very expensive, you also have not just frontage, but you have minimal lot depths and things like that, which would be very hard to do on a lot
Especially
like
where-
that.
especially where
'cause
it
you got
comes in.
all sorts of.
Yeah.
I've done lots where you got angles that are ridiculous. Just makes not very nice house lots to me.
or one apartment building.
Yeah, possibly one apartment building if you want to live next to a junkyard.
Like I said, I'm trying to, I had
It's a tough
preconceived.
one.
Yeah, I mean, I had preconceived before, and that's not the situation now after looking at everything, and
It's a tough one.
it is, it's. Just trying to be, just trying to think practical.
I like this. I like the fact that we don't all agree on everything. This is what a good board does. People will come at it from different angles, come up with their own determination. You guys ready, you all ready to vote, or do we, anything more to discuss?
I'm ready.
I'm all set.
Gary?
All set.
Well, before we,
I'm hearing you.
do we want to put in, assuming that we were to grant this, has anybody thought about any conditions at all?
Other than increasing the buffer to the residential properties that abut it, I'm not sure,
I
I'm
would
not sure
I
what
would
a
assume the
reasonable.
planning board would.
Right,
would be.
as far as the important things, like I say, I didn't know if anybody was concerned with lighting or, but like I say, the planning board, my biggest concern was,
The planning board does have a lighting and landscaping regulation.
Right, so, but my biggest hangup was the recycling of, and planning board will take care of all that, as far as the fluids and runoffs and,
Yeah.
We're an MS4 community, so the planning board has to be very aware of those kind
right,
of things.
so I'm gonna trust them.
Can I ask another question?
Of us, but not of them.
Oh, okay.
I tried
I
that
was
already.
curious on what was gonna go on with the house that's there. I
But-
should have asked earlier.
Yeah.
But my only thought on restrictions would be that would bother the people is the weekend stuff.
and he said noontime he was done.
That's really something for the planning board.
Close
So
Sunday.
they can
Yeah,
impose
close
time,
Sunday.
hour restrictions and all that kind of thing.
Other than that, nope. I'm ready.
Okay, Dee, why don't you call the roll?
Gary Ingham,
No.
Jim Unger,
Yes?
Peter Belo,
No.
Dan Lloyd,
Yes.
John Glenn.
Yes.
The vote is 3-0. Motion passes.
Okay. No worries. And, just like with the last applicant, people do have 30 days to appeal, so you can't really do anything for 30 days. Dee will send something official about this determination within the next 5 days. Okay? Have a good one.
5 business days.
5 business days. I apologize.
There's a holiday in there.
You know, when you're retired, every day's the same, you know?
Stop rubbing it in.
Do you have anything else for us?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. Before you take us off the air, okay, before you take us off the air, it is now 8:15 in the evening. I just want to let the zoning board and the few people who are out there watching us know that tonight at 9:21, if you go outside and look north, find the Big Dipper, which will be upside down. There should be a stream of about 30 what's called Starlink satellites that SpaceX put up yesterday, all going through the Big Dipper, like as a stream. They're all really close together. Anyhow, it should be kind of cool. And at that, you can take us off the air. Meeting is adjourned.